Stop right there. Right there. You know what your problem is? You think eating healthy is complicated. You think you need a nutrition degree. Research confirms it soothes coughs more effectively than over-the-counter dextromethorphan and contains antioxidants that support immune function. What's fascinating is that these weren't accidentally healthy choices. Each food served multiple therapeutic purposes, from dates providing instant energy for breaking fasts to honey acting as both food and medicine. Modern laboratories with sophisticated equipment are essentially confirming what careful observation and centuries of human experience already knew. The intersection of ancient dietary wisdom and contemporary scientific validation demonstrates that optimal nutrition doesn't require revolutionary new discoveries but rather a return to time-tested fundamentals. Walk into any modern grocery store and you'll face 40,000 different products screaming for your attention. Multi-grain crackers with 17 ingredients you can't pronounce. Protein bars that need a chemistry degree to understand. Superfood powders shipped from remote corners of the planet. We've convinced ourselves that optimal nutrition requires complexity, exotic ingredients, and significant financial investment. But this ancient eating pattern tells a completely different story. It's centered on 7 foods that were locally available, minimally processed, and required no special preparation or expensive importation. Dates grew on trees in the region. Olive oil came from pressing local olives. Barley was cultivated grain. Milk came from animals in the community. Honey was collected from bees. Meat was raised locally. Water came from wells. There were no proprietary blends, no trademarked formulas, no celebrity endorsements needed. This simplicity wasn't poverty or limitation, but intentional wisdom. These foods were eaten in their whole natural state without refinement or processing that strips away nutrients. A date was a date, not date extract in a capsule. Olive oil was pressed and used, not fractionated into components. Barley was ground into flour or cooked whole, not isolated for its beta-glucan content alone. The approach trusted that nature had already created nutritionally complete foods without human interference or improvement. Compare this to our current obsession with optimization, where we consume isolated nutrients, fortified products, and engineered foods designed in laboratories. We've fragmented nutrition into its smallest components, believing we can outsmart nature by consuming vitamin C without the orange, fiber without the grain, protein without the food. This ancient wisdom operated from abundance, not scarcity. It didn't require choosing between dozens of diet philosophies or navigating conflicting nutritional advice. The framework was straightforward. Eat whole foods grown or raised in your region, prepare them simply, consume them with gratitude. No calorie counting apps, no macro tracking, no food anxiety. Just real food, simply prepared, mindfully consumed. The sophistication was in the simplicity itself. The most revolutionary aspect of this ancient eating pattern wasn't what foods were consumed, but the fundamental principle of moderation embedded into every meal. The guideline was precise and profoundly simple. Fill 1/3 of your stomach with food, 1/3 with water, and leave 1/3 empty. This wasn't a suggestion for special occasions or a temporary diet restriction, but a daily practice woven into the fabric of eating itself. In a world where we're taught to clean our plates, go back for seconds, and maximize value through volume, this ancient wisdom said the opposite. It recognized that the space you don't fill is as important as what you consume. That empty third allows for proper digestion, prevents the lethargy that comes from overeating, and maintains a relationship with food based on nourishment rather than excess. This principle of moderation extended beyond portion sizes to frequency and variety. Meat was consumed occasionally, not at every meal. Fasting was practiced regularly, giving the digestive system rest. Foods were seasonal and varied naturally without forced dietary restrictions. There was no binge restrict cycle, no cheat days followed by punishment, no all-or-nothing thinking that plagues modern eating. The approach was sustainable, precisely because it was moderate. You could maintain this way of eating for a lifetime without feeling deprived or restricted, because it honored both the body's need for nourishment and its need for rest. Consider how radically different this is from modern eating culture, where restaurants serve portions 2 to 3 times larger than recommended serving sizes, where all-you-can-eat buffets are celebrated, where eating until you're uncomfortably full is normalized. We've lost the ability to recognize satiation, mistaking fullness for satisfaction. This ancient practice understood that true satisfaction comes not from maximum consumption, but from eating just enough. It's the difference between feeding yourself and stuffing yourself, between nourishment and excess, between respecting your body's signals and overriding them. Moderation wasn't deprivation, but liberation from the tyranny of more. Each of these 7 foods served multiple roles that extended far beyond basic nutrition, functioning simultaneously as daily sustenance, preventive medicine, and therapeutic treatment. Honey wasn't just a sweetener, but a wound healer, cough suppressant, and digestive aid applied both internally and externally. Dates weren't merely a quick snack, but served as labor facilitators, energy boosters during fasting, and natural laxatives for digestive health. Olive oil was consumed for heart protection, used topically for skin conditions, and served as a base for medicinal preparations. This wasn't accidental versatility, but reflected a sophisticated understanding that food and medicine aren't separate categories, but exist on a continuum. Barley water was prepared specifically for fever reduction and digestive complaints, while the grain itself provided sustained energy and blood sugar regulation. Milk, particularly in fermented forms, delivered probiotics for gut health long before we had terminology for microbiomes or understood bacterial balance. Even water consumption followed therapeutic principles, with specific guidance on temperature, timing, and manner of drinking to optimize digestion and hydration. The practice of drinking slowly in 3 breaths prevented gulping air, aided digestion, and promoted mindful consumption that modern gastroenterologists now recognize as beneficial. This integrated approach meant households didn't need extensive medicine cabinets or frequent trips to healers for minor ailments. A sore throat received honey. Digestive upset was treated with barley water or dates. Skin irritation was soothed with olive oil. The same pantry that provided daily meals also stocked the home pharmacy. This dual-purpose functionality made healthcare accessible and prevention-focused rather than crisis-driven. People weren't eating healthy foods and then separately taking medicines when they got sick. They were consuming foods that prevented illness while nourishing the body, understanding that the best medicine is the food you eat every day. This wisdom recognized what modern functional medicine is now rediscovering, that chronic disease often stems from poor nutrition, and that food can be the most powerful form of preventive and therapeutic medicine available. One of the most striking aspects of these 7 foods is their universal accessibility across economic classes and geographic regions. Dates grew abundantly in the Middle East and North Africa, available to both wealthy merchants and common laborers. Olive oil, while valuable, was produced locally and didn't require international trade routes or premium pricing. Barley was among the most affordable and widely cultivated grains, far cheaper than wheat, yet equally nutritious. Honey could be collected from wild bees or purchased from local beekeepers at reasonable prices. Milk came from goats, camels, or cows that families often owned or could access through community networks. Water was free from wells and springs. Even meat consumed moderately didn't require daily purchases of expensive cuts but occasional consumption of affordable options. This accessibility meant optimal nutrition wasn't reserved for the elite or wealthy, but available to virtually everyone regardless of social status. A poor family could follow the same dietary principles as a rich one because the foods themselves didn't carry prohibitive costs or require special access. There were no exotic berries shipped from distant continents, no rare seeds available only through specialty retailers, no expensive supplements manufactured in laboratories. The democratization of health through accessible foods stands in sharp contrast to modern wellness culture where optimal nutrition often seems to require significant disposable income. Today's superfoods like goji berries, acai, spirulina, and specialty protein powders can cost 20 to 50 times more than basic staples, creating a 2-tiered system where health becomes a luxury good. This ancient pattern proved that nutritional excellence doesn't correlate with expense or exclusivity. The foods were simple, local, affordable, and available year-round in their regions. A person working manual labor could eat the same health-promoting foods as a scholar or ruler. The wisdom wasn't locked behind paywalls, specialty stores, or exclusive knowledge. It was public, practical, and implementable by anyone willing to prioritize these 7 staples: making optimal health a birthright rather than a privilege. The practice of eating these 7 foods transcended mere caloric intake and nutritional requirements, transforming meals into deliberate acts of mindfulness and gratitude. Before consuming food, there was a moment of acknowledgement and thanks, creating a mental pause between hunger and eating. This wasn't performative ritual, but intentional practice that shifted eating from automatic behavior to conscious choice. Water wasn't gulped down mindlessly while scrolling through phones or rushing between tasks, but consumed slowly, in 3 separate sips, while sitting down. This simple act forced presence and awareness with every drink. Dates weren't thrown back like candy, but eaten individually, often in odd numbers, with attention paid to each piece of fruit. The act of chewing wasn't rushed, but deliberate, allowing proper digestion to begin in the mouth and giving the brain time to register satiation signals. This intentionality extended to the 1/3 rule for stomach capacity, which required people to actually pay attention to their bodies rather than eating until plates were empty or packages were finished. You had to notice when you reached satisfaction rather than fullness, distinguishing between physical hunger and habitual consumption. Meals weren't eaten standing at counters, in cars during commutes, or while staring at screens. They were events that commanded full attention, creating space for the body to properly digest and the mind to register nourishment. Even food preparation carried intentionality, with specific methods for washing, cooking, and serving that demonstrated care and respect for the ingredients. Compare this to modern eating patterns, where the average meal is consumed in under 15 minutes, often while multitasking, with minimal awareness of taste, texture, or satiation. We eat in our cars, at our desks, in front of televisions, scrolling through social media while mechanically moving food from plate to mouth. The ancient practice recognized that how you eat matters as much as what you eat, that presence and gratitude transform food from fuel into nourishment for body and soul. So let's bring this full circle. You started reading this thinking maybe you'd learn about some ancient diet trick, some exotic secret that only a few people knew about. But what you discovered is something far more powerful than a trick. You discovered that the answer to our modern health crisis has been sitting in plain sight for 14 centuries, and it's so simple that we've been overlooking it while chasing complexity. 7 foods. That's it. Not 70 supplements. Not 17 different diet plans. 7 whole foods that science keeps validating that your body instinctively recognizes and that you can start eating today. But here's what I really want you to understand. This isn't just about dates and olive oil and barley. This is about reclaiming your power from an industry that profits from your confusion. This is about rejecting the noise and trusting wisdom that has nourished human beings for over a millennium. This is about making eating simple again, joyful again, intentional again. You don't need permission to start. You don't need to wait for Monday or the first of the month or until you finish the junk food in your pantry. You can walk into any grocery store today and buy these 7 foods. You can start with 1 meal, 1 food, 1 intentional choice, and when you do, when you break your fast with a date tomorrow morning, when you drizzle olive oil on your vegetables, when you drink water slowly while sitting down, you're not just feeding your body, you're participating in a tradition of wellness that has sustained millions of people across continents and centuries. You're choosing simplicity over complexity. You're choosing wisdom over trends. You're choosing yourself. The 1/3 rule isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. Freedom from overeating. Freedom from that uncomfortable, stuffed feeling. Freedom from using food to numb emotions instead of nourish your body. The accessibility of these foods means health isn't a luxury, it's your birthright. You don't need to be wealthy, you don't need special equipment, you just need to make different choices at the grocery store. The moderation woven into this practice means you can sustain this for life. This isn't a 30-day challenge or a quick fix. This is a blueprint for living that you can follow when you're 25 and when you're 85. So here's my final challenge to you. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop waiting for more information. Stop waiting for motivation to strike. In 5 seconds, commit to 1 change. Just 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Maybe you commit to eating 3 dates every morning for the next week. Maybe you replace your cooking oil with olive oil. Maybe you practice the 1/3 rule at dinner tonight. Maybe you just drink your next glass of water slowly, with intention while sitting down. 1 decision, 1 food, 1 moment of intentionality. Because that's how transformation actually happens. Not through massive overhauls that last 3 days before you quit, but through small, consistent choices that compound over time into a completely different life. Your ancestors knew how to eat. Your body knows how to heal. You just need to get out of your own way and trust the simplicity.